All right, welcome everyone to the Strimzi Community Call on Thursday, the 24th of July. We have started the recording already. So first thing on the agenda is the Strimzi HTTP Bridge 100 release. Paolo, did you have anything specific to say about the release or just announcing that it happened?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to disable the mic. So yes, there was a discussion about the HTTP bridge in the Strimzi channels, and at some point we thought that there are no big things that are that we are waiting for on the bridge. There are big things that we can add, but maybe in the future, like for example the support for HTTPS and things like that. But we think that even I went through the list of issues that are in the bridge. There is nothing that is blocking us to have finally a 1.0.0 release. So I think that Jakub agreed on that. He was the first one to try to raise this discussion. If there are no objections, I will proceed in the next days to change. Our next milestone is not the 0.33, will be 1.0.0, and at some point to have the release.
Yeah, looks good to me.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, so on to PRs and issues. So we have this one.
Yeah, I added this one just, to have some discussion around if we should have the PR open for removing the annotations, but yeah, it was anyway, the PR was anyway opened by Jakub yesterday during night, so yeah, I guess it's sorted out.
Cool. Can you see 11657 on my screen now, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah, so this was just around, so for this particular PR, there was, discussion about adding more of the annotations to the examples, and then there was discussion about removing them entirely because actually we don't need them. But yeah, as Lukasz says, Jakub's opened a PR. So I guess we can go ahead and, are we happy to go ahead and close this one? The original docs issue?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Cool. Okay. So next we have 11570. Yes, cool. So I was hoping, I don't know who added this, but I realized I forgot to add it. We discussed.
Yeah, it was me, just in time.
Yes, so because I think we have Owen and Fede and Jakub and Paolo on the call, which is all the people who either created the pull request or are reviewing it up here. So did you have a specific thing you wanted to start with here, Paolo, or do you want me to start?
No, well, I just replied to your comments about having two separate methods for the user and matrix configuration coming from the operator itself. Yeah, I just commented there that yeah, it could make sense to have two different methods. The thing is that anyway, both configuration are ending into the same field in the Kafka broker, in the matrix reporters. So we have to think about anyway that it's not just writing the user and writing the Strimzi operator related matrix thing, but the configuration that you have in two different objects has to go to be injected into one field in the broker configuration. So two methods, one method. For me, the main point was that the last implementation where the things are written directly is more complex than the previous one, where we were using a kind of copy of the user configuration in order to add the operator once and then writing everything in one shot. So yeah, I was just asking, even Owen asked for other opinions, if you should come back to the previous implementation, taking this one, or following another approach.
So what you're saying is this, so is it this configuration here, the metric.reporters configuration, that sometimes gets set by the user directly, does it?
Yes, because the user can even configure its own metric reporter. So when you enable, I don't know, the Strimzi metrics reporter, and the user has also enabled another reporter in the spec Kafka config, and you set the metrics reporters field there, you have to fill the field with both the user metrics reporter and the Strimzi metrics reporter. If for any reason the user has added something, a custom reporter from his side.
So where is that being done? I know there's another comment thread about this. So I don't know, Owen, and I know Owen, I spoke to you about some of the suggestions, but I don't know if Fede, you've managed to see the comment that I added, although I think I added 2 comments.
So I haven't looked at the latest comments on this. I think there is a little bit of contradictions in the comments latest comments we had on this PR, but I'm happy to do any change you feel is better if there is agreement on that, right?
Yeah.
So this is needed, yes, as Paolo said, it's correct. The user can set their own metrics reporter, right? So we want to still keep them, and in these cases add our own reporters on top of that. So this is why this specific method is called from user config with user config method.
Right. Okay.
And we have a couple of these Kafka configuration in which they can inject their own reporters, and so we need to account for that. I can rewrite this method to make it simpler, more verbose, but more in line with the surrounding style, if you feel it's better. But I guess this still needs to be called inside with user configuration.
Yeah, that was the part I was missing yesterday, Kate, when we were discussing why there was with user configs as well, because because they might be a custom metric reporter as well.
Yeah. So I think for me, and Jakob, feel free to chime in after as well if there's particular things you want to say. I think for me, where I got to with kind of trying to read through what's going on, I haven't seen a lot of the history. So apologies if I'm commenting things that it was like this before, and then I'm like, oh, why isn't it like this? It's hard to follow the history when you have a bunch of like different iterations. So I've just looked at this iteration. The things that jumped out to me were that as somebody coming in and looking at the code fresh, it wasn't clear to me why the user configuration is being conflated with the metrics configuration. That isn't kind of stated anywhere, I don't think.
Yeah, so
it says if they are, we inject the metric JMX metric reporter, inject the Strimzi, but like it's not clear why that. And then this piece of code specifically for me, I really struggle to parse what's happening here. To me, my understanding when I haven't gone through exactly what each of these lines is doing, but from like a quick scan, I'm like, okay, we're iterating through this list and we're iterating through this list. But if both of these are false, then we're not doing anything, right? So what do we then write out as the metric.reporters? We don't write anything out. So that's where I'm kind of confused.
No, I understand what to say. If you don't have the full context, this is hard to read. It was much more readable before, but maybe there was some other issue. But the general pattern is the same that we have on the broker builder, configuration builder, where in there you have the cruise control reporter, right? And you have an inject flag like this. So we are following the same pattern here.
Yeah, I understand that. And what I sort of explained when I was chatting to Owen yesterday is, so I went back and had a look to understand where these changes have come from and what we had in the Kafka broker configuration builder. And I feel like previously in the Kafka broker configuration builder, we had user config, and then we had the inject CC metrics reporter. So then the PR that added these two was remove, and there was metrics as well. So there was a new PR which added the Kafka broker integration with Strimzi metrics reporter, and that was taking out one metrics flag and putting in two. And so looking at that, it was like, oh, okay, this, to me, this like easily makes sense. I understand, like, we had something in here before and we're just replacing it with two because now we have two metrics reporters. Whereas I feel like the reason it feels a lot more of a stark change within Connect is that when you scroll down to the Connect one, wherever it's gone, we're going from having no metrics in here to suddenly having metrics. So rightly or wrongly, to me, that's why it jumps out more clearly that it might be confusing of why we're having to pass the metrics in here. I understand, okay, so we need to configure this metric dot reporters taking into account the user, but to me, the code, how it's written today, it's not at all clear that that's what's going on. Like, we have a tiny bit of Java doc here, but yeah, I really struggle to parse what is happening with this code without having to like go through it line by line. And ideally, I want to be able to skim and go, okay, I'll follow the logic. I don't know, Jakob, if you have any thoughts about where we're at here and how we move forward.
I guess to move forward by implementing the commands, or?
Sorry, say that again. I didn't quite hear you.
That we get forward by implementing the commands, or I'm not sure what exactly you mean.
Yeah, I think the key discussion that seemed to be happening on the thread was whether or not we're happy with the way we're currently doing it in the Kafka broker configuration builder is we are taking the user configuration and then we're adding the metrics configuration to that, I guess fundamentally because one of the metrics overlaps, which is the piece of information I hadn't appreciated.
So we have to remove it, right? But we don't need to do it in the bit user config method necessarily. We can do it in a separate method if we want to. Yeah, we are just removing them from there, so we can remove it in one method and then kind of print the rest of the metrics in a separate method.
Yeah. And so you would that would be your preference, is to keep that separation of this is clearly the user configuration and then separate methods for the metrics pieces, but we just need to handle that overlap.
Yeah, I think that's as best as we can.
Yeah,
separate
yeah.
them.
I mean, I'm happy with that.
The separation will be always broken because unfortunately we didn't block these options from the user configuration on the beginning. So.
Well, and I guess potentially we want to allow them to configure more than one metrics reporter. I don't know. Paolo, are you happy with that approach?
Well, I was going to ask if you can repeat one more time. Maybe I didn't get exactly what's the idea.
So I can repeat and then Jakob can tell me if I have understood correctly. My understanding is, so we have a bunch of user configuration. The only metric that actually clashes is, I guess, these ones. But I guess the user's only configuring that. I don't know if they, or maybe they do configure these, but it's these specific ones. So rather than having the with user configuration method also printing out metric stuff, effectively have the with user configuration pull out these ones and put them to one side, print out the user config, and then have a separate method which does the, okay, right, let's sort out what metrics reporter we need to print, taking into account the user config.
You mean at the code level, because the result of this code is exactly what you described. So you have a block with metrics configuration and another block with the user only configuration if there is the overlap.
So when we instantiate this, we do it here, right? So we have the configuration, so presumably we could pass the configuration in both places.
Yes, so you mean adding another method specific for this property, metrics reporter properties?
That's my understanding. Jakob, did I correctly represent what you said?
Yeah, that's what I said, but to be honest, it was more you who wanted to have it separately of me. Although I'm fine with it.
I mean, as I say, for me, it feels unclear how it is today. My understanding was that the discussion was whether or not we should do this copying of the user configuration, and that between yourself and Paolo, neither of you had kind of settled on what you were happy with, or at least there wasn't a key agreement that I could see on the thread. But maybe
I think the agreement was probably that it could be moved out of user configuration, but I think it was whether this iteration that Fede put in or the last iteration that we had is more clear.
So, like in the latest state, I don't necessarily have a problem with the method in which it is done, rather than with the way in which it is done, which is pretty much, as you said, Kate, that the code seems overly complex and rather not readable than anything else. But I personally don't have a problem with the method in which it is done, that it's done in the with user configuration.
Okay, let's do this then. Fede, are you happy to go ahead and update the methods to, like you say, make them a bit more verbose, but hopefully more readable? And then once you've done that, myself, Paolo, and Jakob can have a re-review and see where we're at. Is everyone happy with that approach?
Yeah. So this is fine for me. I just want to clarify if we need or not the defensive copy, because I added that just because it was there already in the broker configuration builder. I think it's needed, but I would like to confirmation on that.
So you're
sorry, what is needed?
So
the defensive copy at the start of with user configuration, given that at some point we may remove some configuration. So creating a copy at the start of that method, like we have in the broken configuration builder.
Yeah, I'm trying to find where it is in the.
I think doing the copy to remove it is fine, but we should not add to it. I mean, ideally we want to avoid the removing as well, but I think
yes,
we are. That's not something what can be done in this PR.
You're talking about this bit, right?
Yeah, this is on the broker side, I guess. Yes, and then you have a similar one on the connect.
Yeah, so you're specifically talking about this.
Yeah. Okay. So we are keeping this. Okay. Great.
Yeah. Everyone happy with that?
So like obviously, if you would proceed with what we discussed before and have the fields removed in a separate method, then this would need to be done outside and not inside.
Yeah. But should we
but in general, keeping the copy of it, I think that makes sense.
Okay. Let's start with the refactor of this part then, which I feel like we're all in agreement, and then we can see how easy it is to follow at that point. And then, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Are we keeping brokers and controllers the same, or are we going to do a similar refactor for brokers and controllers when we finish doing Connect and Mirror Maker?
So my suggestion, and Paolo and Jakob, feel free to have a different point of view. My preference would be that we just make changes to the Connect files and agree what we're happy with. And then if they are different from the broker ones, then we go and update the broker ones to match in a separate PR, just because it reduces the number of files having to review every time.
Yeah, that's what I mean in two different PRs.
But that's my preference, but Paolo and Jakob, feel free to disagree.
But this PR already does modify the broker part.
I know it does. I would prefer if it didn't. But I'm happy to be outvoted if everyone else is happy to review the higher number of files.
I can
yeah, but I think we should do it either in one PR in the same way as it is done basically right now, or we should remove the changes completely.
Yes, I agree. Let's keep them synchronized in this, because these changes are really focused on the builder, not a lot of stuff.
Has anyone got any other questions on this?
Yeah, I was trying to speak about.
Sorry, go ahead.
Other
I
people were
understand.
faster than me. Yeah. So
That's
let me
fine.
try to be the stupid here, just to make sure that I have got what we are going to have in the next iteration, because I don't want Owen and Fede doing another iteration and then another iteration and another iteration in an endless loop. With user configuration, so if you scroll to the with user configuration, Kate, yeah, for example, this one, we are going to have anyway a defensive copy, right?
Exactly
And,
as it is here.
yeah, and we are going to remove all the part from the metrics reporter, if there is any metrics reported provided by the user, and printing the user configuration, right? Just printing the user configuration. Then in a different method, as far as understood, with metrics configuration, we are still passing the user configuration object because we need to extract the metrics reporters configured by the user, and then matching and mixing together with our own reporters, the JMX, the Strimzi, and writing the metrics configuration. Is that right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well,
So
for this
my
reason,
understanding,
I say let me be
I'm glad you asked the question. My understanding is that we are going to have the defensive copy, like we said, and then we are going to have within this method, we are going to print the user config and print the metrics. And the main change that is going to be made is to refactor this method to be more in line with the other parts of this class. So instead of all of kind of constructing everything and then printing at the end, to make it more similar to what we had before. So I guess whatever we have in the Kafka broken configuration is probably more similar to this. Can I even find where it is? That's print metrics.
This is also my understanding of what we discussed.
Yeah. So effectively kind of going more back to, so we keep everything within the with user configuration. We create the defensive copy so that we can then do our removing the user configured metrics reporters and putting in what we need instead. But this method is just rewritten to be more similar to the rest of the class, which is hopefully going to be more readable. And then we will review at that point, and if everyone's happy, we go ahead. And if we still think it's unclear what's going on, then we can decide to do the additional step of actually moving this part to a separate method. But when the hope is that we won't need to do that, and everyone will be happy and will match.
Maybe what I'm not getting is what it means to be more similar to the rest of the other code. Maybe I will understand when I see the code.
Yeah, so a lot of the other sections, let me see if I can find an example. A lot of this one doesn't have as much stuff in it, I don't think, as the, so a lot of the other ones are more like this. So you have, obviously these ones are all hard coded, but sort of explicit, like writing out, rather than building a list, iterating, constructing the kind of the list of everything that needs printing and then printing all the properties out at the end. It will be more kind of it. So for example, if metrics instance of Kafka JMX reporter metrics.reporters equals JMX metrics Strimzi metrics reporter, if so, kind of more like explicit checking of the different booleans.
Okay, but this code, but this code is kind of doing this, but building a collection and then printing everything, right? So
yeah, so it's iterating through and building up everything that needs printing and then printing it all at the end, we're moving back to more explicit print lines to make it easier for people to understand what's being printed. Type of config.
Okay. Yep.
That's what you were intending to do, Fede?
Yeah, I think I understand what we want, and I will try to do that.
Can you scroll again on the with user configuration? Sorry.
Yeah.
So here we are, okay, making the defensive copy with the print config providers that you see there on line 309. It's getting the user configuration, is already doing something inside like removing stuff. So I guess this is why we have taken the defensive copy and then printing. No, it's on the top. Yeah. It should be on the top.
Yeah, I don't know where this method is.
No, it's this one is it's exactly this one.
Yeah.
So it's removing something from the user because we have the set. So as we have the problem for the metrics dot reporters, we have the same issue for the config providers because the user can provide some providers as well as Strimzi. Okay. Yeah. Now, if you come back, so it's printing this part. Yeah. Then you are saying here to printing the metrics. So still taking the print metrics reporters and printing the metrics. So doing the same as the print config providers. Yep. And then printing the user configuration at the end. Yes. Yeah, okay. I'm just curious to see how print metrics provider will change, print metrics reporters will change and will be easy or more readable than it's right now. Cool. Jakob, are you happy as well?
Yeah, it sounds reasonable.
Cool. Any last questions or comments on this one? Or are we good?
Thanks for looking at it.
All right, well, thank you for raising the view. Okay, let's move on to proposals.
Yeah, I just added 2 proposals, just to make it visible. One for the Strimzi cleaner and the filtering of the namespaces. And the second one is from Shubham about the self-healing. So yeah, if you can have a look at it, it would be great.
There's no particular questions, it's just call for more eyes.
Yes, me included in this proposal.
Okay.
Thanks.
I guess there's now a third one as well.
You guess there's what, sorry?
About the restarting of the connectors.
Restarting the connect. Oh, there's sorry. Spot that one.
I can send the link on the chat. There's a new one. Yeah, exactly. This one.
Here we go. Sorry, I hadn't spotted that one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a new one I just opened yesterday, so
cool.
No problem at all.
So this is specifically for the issue around we now have an option for restarting where you can pass more query parameters. So
correctly.
How do we handle this?
Yeah, correct.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, another one for people to have a look at. Thank you. Are there any other proposals that need discussion? Okay, let's do some issues triage. So for those who didn't spot, we had a ad hoc issues triage call last week, I want to say, which the recording is up. So if any issues you're interested in got discussed, feel free to have a look at the recording on the Strimzi YouTube. But let's have a look at some of these. So this one I feel like we've discussed quite a few times. I think we were waiting, for input from the user. But so this was 2 weeks ago we last triaged this. Do we want to leave it some more, or
I think
take
we
off the
can,
needs triage?
yeah, we can maybe remove the needs triage and add the help wanted. I guess it was discussed on the previous community call.
Yeah.
Yeah, when was the last engagement from the user? Can you scroll up a little bit?
June 4th.
June 4th. Yeah, I will remove needs triage for now and see if the user will come back.
I'll put help wanted. Uh, 24th of the 7th. I mean, that's kind of obvious. Maybe we don't need a comment. Right, let's move on. Okay. This one again, I think, is one that's been discussed before. So this is around the pod anti-affinity and what the defaults should or shouldn't be. So we triaged it before and we said that we kind of explained why the defaults are the way they are and that we would be open to removing the defaults, but we should have some clear documentation. But either way, you should review the documentation about what happens when you enable rack awareness. We haven't heard back from the user. Do we want to remove the needs triage and add a help wanted and change the title a bit to match?
It's been just a week since we triaged it. Maybe we can leave it for the next time. Some people might be on vacations and so on, or maybe you can ping him if he has some news or so on, but maybe we don't have to move it forward right now.
Yeah, we can just leave it as is for now and then revisit again. Okay, is this one a new one? Yes, cool. Okay, so we have 157, allow configuring Kubernetes client timeouts at runtime. So this is specifically on the drain cleaner. So drain cleaner is running using Quarkus, which does not allow configuring the timeout value for connections and requests through runtime. You have to do it at build time. But then there's this discussion here. So I guess, is it a new feature that basically allows you to provide different ways to configure Quarkus? So this could potentially be possible. So this person is hitting some timeouts and they'd like to be able to basically adopt that within drain cleaner to allow people different ways to configure the timeout at runtime. Are there any drain cleaner people on the call or people who have an opinion on this? I mean, to me, it seems a reasonable request. The user said they would contribute to it.
I think it's reasonable if the user wants to contribute it.
+1.
Okay, so we can remove the needs triage. Okay, next. Deploy Kafka with node port external listener without requiring node RBAC permissions. So this is because if you want an external listener of type node port, then we need to fetch the nodes in order to build the host address, is my understanding. And so the user was asking for a configuration option where they can explicitly list the node address so that they don't have to supply the specific RBAC permissions. And then I know Jakob and Paula, you both had chimed in. What's your thoughts on this one?
So you can basically do it already today yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can just create an internal listener and then create your own node for services. And in the situation when you actually know what the advertised address will be, you can just configure the advertised host. But so you can do it through the workaround. I don't think this is worth implementing in any way because the situation where you actually know the host is pretty rare. In most cases, you don't know where the pods will be scheduled and when the actual host address will be. So I think there's a workaround, and yeah, some better implementation would have only niche usability, so I would reject it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's close this then. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Next. So this one is check warnings against multiple operands of the same type in the same namespace. So this is specifically around people running multiple Kafka clusters in the same namespace. What information do we have in the documentation? There may be some naming conflicts or other problems, specifically for Kafka clusters, maybe for the other operands. What do we state? That I had a quick search. I didn't spend very much time on it, but the only thing I could find where we reference it is here. Within the deploying the topic operator, we say if you want to use the topic operator with not that one. If you use Strimzi to deploy multiple Kafka clusters in the same namespace, enable the topic operator for only one. Use the watch namespace property to convert the topic operators to watch other namespaces. Which kind of implies that it's fine to deploy Kafka clusters in the same namespace. That's the only reference I could find in the documentation. So if we think we should be warning against this, then we probably do need a docs change here.
So I raised this because a lot of users run into issues with this when migrating to the node pools. And it's pretty much the same. Like actually the issue for the topic operator is not as big anymore as it was in the past because we don't have the bidirectional topic operator anymore. So in the past, that was a real issue because you had multiple topic operators and each was trying to create the consumer offsets topic, for example. Right. So they kind of try to fight for the same resource. That's not really happening with the unidirectional topic operator, but still, if you want to create a topic named my topic, it basically can be linked with a given resource name only to one cluster. So if you have some GitOps application where someone tries to create a topic named my topic with the Kafka topic resource my topic, and once for one cluster, once for another cluster, then they will be basically overwriting each other's configurations. The same applies to the user operator where there's no possibility to even override the name in the spec. So basically, if you run multiple Kafka clusters in the same namespace, then the user, my user, can exist only in one of those clusters. And if you want to use similar user in another cluster, you, for example, have to name it my user 2. And the same applies to the node pools. They're basically node pool named iNodePool can again exist only once and be linked only to one Kafka cluster. And this is actually the issue where the node pool migration was causing problems to users, because if you have multiple Kafka clusters in the same namespace, the way you migrate to the node pools is that first you create the node pool named Kafka, and that's the same for all Kafka clusters. So you can't migrate kind of the nodes all at once. You have to migrate the Kafka clusters one by one by creating the Kafka node pool for one of them, then creating another node pool, moving all the data, removing the Kafka node pool, and moving to the next one. So while we can't really help the users who already have the problem with the node pool migration, I think we should be much better and much stricter in the documentation in warning against these patterns, because there seem to be all kind of issues around them. And yeah, what you find there, I'm not sure that necessarily applies to the full extent, but basically it applies also to the user operator. It also applies to node pools and possibly to other things in the future.
Yeah, I feel like at the very least, it should state clearly somewhere either we don't recommend this for these reasons, or you can do this, but you have to be aware of these things. The fact that it's not kind of clearly stated anywhere, whether it's even possible, apart from in the topic operated, to me, feels like we need to add some documentation.
Yeah, exactly.
So everyone happy if we, yeah, mark this as triaged. I guess we might need some more discussion on exactly what we want to document here, but that's probably not a cool discussion for right now.
Unless we want help wanted, I can take a look at this.
Yeah, I think for this one, to me, because it's not exactly, I think it'll require quite a bit of back and forth. I think I mean, it probably is easier if someone who's more familiar with the project picks it up, so I'm happy with that. Do you want me to assign it to you then, Paul?
Yes, please. Yeah, and as you say, I think we need something specific, specific section, maybe in at the start of the deployment section.
Yeah.
Just to give some ground rules.
Cool. Okay, next. The Canny Code project, which is for within Strimzi, for those people who are familiar with the Connect part of Strimzi, we give the option for you to do a build. So that will build your Connect cluster with the connectors that you require installed as plugins. That we currently use Canny Code to do that, but it's been archived by Google and is no longer maintained. So we need to decide what to do about that. So Jakob's linked here a forked version from ChainGuard, but they don't have any binary releases, so we would need to do our own builds. We could look at a different tool. There's also been a bunch of proposals and issues and things around the use of OCI image volumes, so allowing you to add volume to an existing container more easily, which would help. Some of the discussions around that have centered on how that would help specifically with Connect connectors. So that might mean that we actually don't need the build anymore, but it's still quite an early feature, so it might be quite a long time before it becomes more widely available. What do people think? Jakob, did you have a preference of these three options? Is there one that immediately feels the right option to you?
I don't know. I mean, the first one is pretty straightforward, but requires us to do more work because we would need to have some build pipeline to build our own Honeycomb binaries. But otherwise, it has minimal impact on the users, and yeah, you don't need to kind of reinvent the wheel. Replacing Honeycomb with Builder might need someone to figure out if Builder can actually do this. How does it work? Potentially, I don't know whether, but I think Builder might be able to do a rootless build, in which case it might be actually usable to kind of unify how the build happens on OpenShift and on Kubernetes. So kind of right now we have two separate implementations. Maybe this might allow us to use just one of them. And obviously the third option, you just deprecate it, like that's pretty straightforward. But yeah, what do we do with the OpenShift part? We deprecate it as well. And it's also like, yeah, it kind of works around the problem, but for some users, it might be still years before they can actually use the OCI image volume. So it might take some time. Plus, we don't know how well the OCI image volume kind of develops as the default standard for the connectors, right? So the OCI image volumes, they solve kind of the Kubernetes problem, but until you have the Kafka connectors available in that format, using that still means that you need to probably set up some CI where you kind of take the connector jars and build them into the OCI artifact, and then you can use it. So the OCI image volumes, yeah, until you have those OCI artifacts available from whoever creates and maintains the connectors, they might still mean some additional work for you. So I don't think I have really a preference. Each of these has some pros and cons.
Yeah. I think the thing I wondered about was whether we could have kind of almost kick the can down the road a little bit of move across to using the forked project. Obviously, as you said, it's not zero work to do that, but do that to give the OCI image volumes stuff time to kind of be a bit more established, and then make a call where we think, actually, yeah, that's fine, we can go that route and we don't have to come up with a replacement, or whether we then start looking into a replacement tool. Overall, that potentially, if we decide we then do still want a replacement tool, it potentially means more work in the long term, but it kind of gives us time to really understand how the OCI image volume stuff is adapted, is like, not adapted, is how many people actually use it. We could, one option for today at least is, do we leave this open and kind of have a call out to the community for those who are using Canico today, what their preference would be, whether people have strong feelings?
I have the question regarding the first approach. Of course, Jakub mentioned that, yeah, we have this fork, but they are not going to do any public binary releases. So it's something that we have to do on our own, right?
Yep.
Will be enough having just, I don't know, some pipelines in Azure, or then we have to have a fork of a fork in order to do the releases?
I did not thought about it too much, but I guess the most obvious thing would be to have a fork. It's also like with every build, right? You build something from sources, you need to do some testing that it works fine. It's probably easy to do the basic testing for the platform you use right now, but yeah, obviously it will be harder to do the testing for things like PowerPC or S390X and so on. So So like I didn't thought about it, to be honest. What exactly would that mean, or how exactly would it be done, aside from that it would need some work and some effort?
Yeah.
What should we do then? Do we want to leave it open for give more time for people to comment on it? It's been open a month, but obviously we haven't highlighted it on a community call yet. Whether that...
To be honest, I'm not sure what to expect from the community.
I think more just whether people are heavily relying on this feature or not. Because if people are heavily relying on it in production,
and how will you judge it? Will you judge it that if you don't get answer, we absolutely need it from 100 people, that we will just deprecate it and remove it, or?
Well, I suppose it's just giving people an opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah, I think the problem is that we don't really have the exact sizing of the community, right? For every feature we have, I'm pretty sure we have some user. So if you ask, it's easy to get some voices to say, oh, we absolutely need this feature. The hard decision is to decide how big percentage of the community they represent, right? To be honest, I think we need to do with this something one way or another. And the next step should be ultimately a proposal of what should be done, either how we build the Kaneko, or how we replace it, or that we deprecate it. So I would probably remove the triage, and I would probably mark it as proposal needed. And you can ask about it for the community, but I'm not sure the triage is the right part where to decide what to do about it.
Well, I guess, yeah, that's one option, is to basically say whoever picks this up can then review the options and propose what they think is the right way forward. Because it sounds like I don't think anyone on the call is firmly feeling that one way is the best way. So should I mark it as help wanted?
I feel like ultimately someone from the core team might need to do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, if someone wants to jump in, then I'm not sure we want to prevent anyone, but
I mean, we can mark it, can't we?
I mean, for me, usually the help wanted issues indicate like this is up to the users, and we will not do anything about this on our own.
Yeah, I guess my line would be more, if there's not someone who knows for certain they're going to get to this soon, then we may as well mark it as help wanted, and someone in the community might jump in. Was where I normally would go. Oh yeah, maybe help wanted.
You know,
yeah,
I can pick this up if, you know, and write a proposal.
Okay, help.
Jakub, out of curiosity, when you say, however, they do not do any public binary releases, is that something that you read somewhere, that they are not going to be committed for that, or?
Yes, I read it somewhere. It's not that they don't do any binary releases, they don't do any public binary releases. So as far as I know, they do the releases for their customers.
Ah, okay. Yeah, because I was reading the release MD file in their repo, And the beginning, it says only members of the chain guard dev organization and maintainers of the Canonical repository can create an official release, which looks like they could do some official release. For other users, must use the following steps, and then there is the steps if you want to create a release. So I was wondering.
That might be something new what was not there.
Yeah, it's 3 days ago.
When I read it, when I opened the issue, but yeah, I think that pretty much mirrors.
If you, Kate, if you open this link, I've just put into the chat.
It pretty much mirrors what I said. So there won't be. So there are releases, like you can see the release there, for example, from June 10th. But there are no binaries which will be distributed freely there.
Okay.
Have they created any releases yet or not?
Sorry?
Does this Canonical fork have any new releases on top of what was in the original project?
There's one release, yes.
Right. And yeah,
125.
Added any? No, there's nothing here. Right. That's what we'll be looking for, is something.
Maybe one step could be engaged with them and asking if they are going to release public binaries. Or
no, I definitely read that somewhere in some announcement or somewhere. So as an open source project, you can probably approach them and ask them if they can give us some access or something. That surely would be an option. But I don't think they kind of plan to do this. So there's actually an issue as well. If you go to the closed issues, issue 85. The first one. Yeah. Then there you can also read the answer. So, hello, we are not building and publishing images, blah, blah, blah. If you are ChainGuard customer, we have that image available for your use.
There you go. Binary release artifacts such as container images are not published. Users must build these artifacts themselves or use the ChainGuard container images as customers. There you go. And they do explicitly state if another active and community supported fork emerges, we'll happily shut this one down and migrate to that. So we could, of course, fork it ourselves, but I'm not sure we feel strongly enough about the Canonical project to add an additional fork for us to maintain.
So I think we should absolutely not create a fork to fork it. If we create a fork to build our own binaries, I mean, that's fine, but we do not want to compete with them. And I don't think anyone from us has the knowledge about the Canonical internals and how it works and what libraries should be updated and so on. So
yeah. Lukasz, did you say you were happy to pick this one up?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're about out of time. Did we have anything else? Is there any other business before we close? Cool. We're down to 19 issues. Oh, let me reload. 15 issues. Okay, so that's not too bad. So we'll have to decide. We can decide async separately whether we want to have another ad hoc issues triage or whether we're happy to keep making our way through these ones. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you everyone for attending, and we'll see you on the next community call.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, folks. Bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye all.
Thanks. Bye.